Top Med Talk.
Hello and welcome to Top Med Talk. We're here at Euroanaesthesia 2025. That's the annual meeting of the European Society of Anaesthesiology and Intensive Care here in beautiful Lisbon in Portugal. One of the main themes of the meeting has been patient safety, preoperatively, intraoperatively, and increasingly importantly, postoperative patient safety, with innovations in perioperative medicine, artificial intelligence, smart systems to monitor patient safety, and also engaging patients themselves in their own surgical journey. And we're very lucky now to have a fantastic guest, Benedict Prekel. Benedict, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm an anesthesiologist. I was trained in Germany. I'm from Germany, but I moved to Amsterdam in the Netherlands about 20 years ago and holding there a position as a professor in anesthesiology dedicated to patient safety and quality of care in the perioperative period.
How did you start your journey in patient safety?
It started with quality of care projects, to be honest. It started very early on diabetes care, where I looked whether we really followed the guidelines in our hospital and then recognized that we are not doing what we are recommending. We early started to make protocols, but then also realized that we do not follow our protocols. So this was a start, and I would not say that I started with patient safety. I started with improving the quality of care, which easily goes over to patient safety.
It is interesting how anesthesiologists can be individuals, can't they? And that while they're aware of guidelines, they don't always follow them and need help from organizations.
I think it's a part of the problem might be autonomy of the doctor. People do not like that you tell them what they have to do. They think that they should do what they think is the best way to do. And in the beginning was quite hard to get people to the fact that we need standards, so that when we are working in these quite unsafe situations where we have emergency situations, not many times to think about the stuff that we do the same things and that we can cooperate with each other. I think it's a challenge to get people to the point that if you standardize, you reduce the risk for errors.
And standardization, ironically, is the jumping off point for personalization of care. But if you haven't got that background of consistency, the minimum standard of safety, it's hard to do that.
I would say, for the minimum standard of safety, you should have excellent communication with your team members. It might be still possible, but if we are going to interdisciplinary team trainings and discussion and communication, it becomes much more difficult. This is a point to start, because if the communication is worse, you will not be able to manage any situation in a very good order.
Can you tell us how that began and what you've achieved so far?
Yeah, it was an idea developed by the former chair of the committee, Daniel Anal from Madrid, Spain. And the idea was that there is no patient safety training tool, and we currently know that there's also no patient safety training within the resident curricula in Europe, even not in the world. We wanted to have courses where you can train everybody to at least the essential parts of patient safety theory and also tools, but to give more insight into it. So we developed an online course, which is easy to be followed by each individual person. And these are topped up with 2 face-to-face courses. One is 1.5 day. It's the advanced patient safety course for those who would like to learn a little bit more about patient safety, on tools, on how to use these tools in your own environment, in your own hospital. And the patient safety and quality masterclass, which is a 2.5 day course face-to-face, which really dives in deep into the theory of patient safety. So this is for those who would really like to become experts in patient safety.
I was thinking while you were talking that we could probably clarify for our listeners what the differences are between being trained in anesthesiology and what being focused on quality or being focused on safety might be? What do you see as the differences in the way those groups think?
I think quality of care is frequently just audit your processes and checking whether you are fulfilling your protocols, whether you are following the rules. And patient safety learning is then also understanding the process, for example, why people are not following rules, why people are making mistakes, why these mistakes occur. So while the quality of care measures the mistakes, the patient safety aspect would try to analyze these errors and the events that might occur.
Yeah, a classic example being sort of root cause analyses or thinking about the Swiss cheese
Yes,
model.
these are all theories that are reflected also on in the different courses. But there are also more complex theories behind safety, and these are covered then in the master class, where you do a step further than just analyzing an incident. But even analyzing incidents is quite new for a huge amount of people not involved yet in these aspects.
Can you share some of the more complex theories with us?
To be honest, I'm not the expert in it. We have experts, and they've built one scenario which goes through all the masterclass, 2.5 days, discussing facts that normally everything in your life makes sense. Even if you are doing a mistake, it might make sense at that moment that you took a decision which finally led to a mistake. But most of, I would say, everybody who is going to the hospital is not going to the hospital to say, I will today hurt a patient. No,
Uh,
you are going to the hospital saying, I will do a good job. And sometimes there are circumstances that you take a decision which finally leads to a mistake. There's always one point in it which makes sense that you took that decision in that way.
And then it is an awful moment when it suddenly dawns on you that perhaps it wasn't such a great idea. But then it's the training of anesthesiology is also the ability to get yourself and your patient out of a sticky situation and get the train back on the track.
Yes, it's what we call these 10 seconds for 10 minutes in a different case, where we just reflect on the case, where we say, okay, let's get back to the same level so that we can together take the next steps. This is a patient safety tool, which is frequently used during emergency cases where you really wrap up for everybody. Here we are now. What did we miss? Did we miss anything? Anybody? So that you also have the communication with the whole team. And then you proceed with your treatments.
10 seconds for 10 minutes.
Yes.
That hasn't penetrated my operating rooms yet, but it's going to next week.
We do that also. And if you, for example, have massive bleeding on the OR and you're just busy and you do not know where you are in that case, how many calcium did you give, who did order the blood, what are the last measurements on the viscoelastic testing, whatever, that you just get down, ask everybody, stop, make a summary for 10 seconds, and then ask, did we miss anything? Also gives people the possibility to speak up, to say what they are thinking, to what you eventually are missing, and then you proceed.
So the next frontier for all of this safety work is the postoperative period, the first 24 or 48 hours in particular, where we all often talk about the patient has never looked so good as they do in the post-anesthesia care unit. And then they go to the ward and it's the Wild West where they get blood pressure measured every 4 hours and so forth. What's the ESAIC group doing about safety in that period?
Well, I think here on the Congress, there were a couple of talks. You included a couple of slides in your keynote lecture on remote monitoring. And this is an ongoing discussion. We had a lovely pro-con discussion on remote monitoring. I think I convinced the listeners, at least at the end, most of them were pro to say we should have this in our hospital. I disagree with you that the first 24, 48 hours, probably it's more later. It's more after 96 hours, because most of the patients, when they develop a complication, this will not develop on the first day. Mostly it's on the third or fourth day. And then we normally do not monitor them anymore.
Well, they're even,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
So
true.
how, in that pro-con debate, did you discuss who is going to respond to the remote monitoring that shows there is a safety problem?
Yeah, we did not discuss that in that session, but the problem is that with remote monitoring, we are all working on small islands. We not yet have a global concept on it. So if you do it on one ward in your hospital, you have to also organize who is responding to these alerts. If you would do it in a whole hospital, you could have one centralized person who is trained to not react directly, but to judge about the alerts and then alert a nurse or a doctor, so that you reduce the number of alerts for the individual nursing staff and physicians on the ward, but only have one central person in the whole hospital. You could even go further and say, okay, you could have that in your
Yes.
city. You could also think about you could have this during the day hours delivered by people in Europe and during the night hours delivered by people in Australia. This then it's the day hours for them. There were concepts before for radiology to do that.
Yes.
The things that we do not increase the workload, namely during the night.
That was called Nighthawk.
Yes.
Yes. There were problems with that. Well, not problems, but there were interesting issues with respect to registration and the liability of practitioners who were on the other side of the
Yes.
world. But I think it's an anesthesiology control tower system.
For example, you could have that for your whole region where you have these alerts coming in because they are just coming in via Wi-Fi system. That is a significant problem in a lot of the hospital buildings, which are built from concrete, and you really have to invest in the system. That's a strong drawback at this moment. It's still a huge investment to allow the system to be run in the hospital. So the question is always, can you prove that this improves outcome?
Yes.
And we have, in the meantime, intraoperatively extremely low mortality. Postoperatively, there is still some relevant mortality of 2.5, 2.0%. But to prove that a single intervention will reduce mortality failed during the last year for all intervention that we did, for diabetes care, for beta blockers, for epidural analgesia. So it's not realistic to think that remote monitoring will be the magic bullet who switches out mortality. But I'm quite sure it will save lives.
You explain the
On
difference between those two?
Yeah, because if you save one life and you look for a population of 10,000 patients that you are doing, then you will have a reduction in mortality of 0.001%.
Yes.
And this does not count into the statistical reduction of mortality, but still you saved that one life.
So it seems to me that strong advocacy to governments and universities and the funders of research is going to be required to convince them that they should invest in better Wi-Fi, better remote monitoring, and workforce to deal with the problem. That in Europe, as in other places in the world, there's a lack of funds and a lack of actual anesthesia providers. So what are your solutions to that?
I don't have a solution for that. It's nice that we have different companies that are developing these systems. But on the other hand, it's also a drawback that they do not develop a system altogether where you would serve the community to say, okay, this is what we need. To be honest, also doctors do not know what they need or do not limit their wishes to what is really needed. And this is also a discussion point on remote monitoring. There were systems developed which were designed to measure everything. And why do we need 10 different vitals or 10 different parameters to decide whether a patient is deteriorating? Probably we could bring it down to 1 or 2 or 3 vitals and make a combination of the deviations in these vitals to give us a significant risk of that patient.
It's a very exciting area. Have we missed any really key things that the ESAIC Safety Initiative is working on? We've talked about the courses that you're doing and the advocacy that you've been undertaking.
I think from the committee, we've built the advanced patient safety course in a manner that it can be taken by national societies, by local hospitals to give the course in their area, in their hospital. And we would like, it's difficult to spread the word from the ESAIC alone. So we need patient safety training in every region of the world and in every region of Europe to bring it to our colleagues in all hospitals. We recognized during an expert meeting yesterday that only in a few anesthesia residency programs patient safety is included, and there are a couple of countries where you do not find the word safety in their curriculum. And I think this is a part where the government could take a job to define what needs to be taught to residents within residency programs, not only for anesthesiology, but for all medical disciplines on patient safety. And for the part that was developed by the Patient Safety Quality Committee, the Advanced Patient Safety course, this should be taken by all national societies to bring it to their own country in their own language, because we also learned that people like to be trained in their own language. And it's especially relevant for patient safety training because you are doing a lot with words in patient safety. You are discussing, you are analyzing, and it's not just giving a new drug or taking vital sign. It's also discussing why something happened. And people are not so keen to do this in English always. They love to do this in their own language because it's also sensitive.
Is the course delivered online or face to face?
The essential patient safety course is online, and the other two are face to face.
And can anyone go to the ESAIC website and access the course, or is it conducted through national society?
No, everybody can go to the website. You have to make an account, which is free, and then you can register for these courses.
Well, it sounds like a great initiative that people could do if they're interested, but also if they need, in Australia, for example, for our registration, we need to do courses in different areas, including safety. And it sounds like something that could be easily done by people in their own time to really enhance their interest in patient safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also had colleagues from Australia doing the courses in Amsterdam. So it was really nice to see that we had people from Chile, from Brazil, from India, from Saudi Arabia. So it's not limited to Europe. And you see that safety is a relevant issue all over the world.
Have you had any interactions with societies in less well-resourced countries?
We have a close connection with the Brazilian society. It's not the very low income countries, but I think that the patient safety topics are relevant in every country, and that you have also interventions which are low cost, which can also be introduced in the low income countries. For sure, high fidelity simulation training will not be easily introduced in sub Saharan countries in Africa. But for example, knowing the names of each other with whom you are working on the OR is quite easy. You can write them on your cap or whatever, and this will break hierarchy and will force proper communication on the OR. And this could be done everywhere.
Yes. Well, it's a fantastic program, Benedict, and we're really grateful for you to come to TopMed Talk to talk about it.
Thank you very much.
When are you heading back to Amsterdam?
Tomorrow morning.
Excellent. So, and back straight into quality and safety. And we look forward to the Congress next year in Rotterdam.
Yes,
hometown.
it's close by my hometown. Most people coming to Rotterdam will fly into Amsterdam, I think.
Yes.
Though there's another airport in Rotterdam. I hope that you will all join Euroanesthesia 2026 in Rotterdam.
And I'm sure there'll be a big patient safety component to the program.
Absolutely. Yes, this year we, for the first time, celebrated ambassadors who have taken all the three courses. We already know that there are people eager to follow all the three courses, and we will celebrate them as ambassadors in Rotterdam. So it's also opportunity for everybody who would like to go more into detail in patient safety and trained in patient safety to do so and to be celebrated as advocate and in Rotterdam?
Well, if you're interested in patient safety, please go to the ESAIC website. If you're interested in our podcast, please go to our website. You can also find us on social media. We're on Facebook, X. We're now on Blue Sky. We're very modern. And we're also on YouTube. And if you go to YouTube, please give us a big thumbs up. We'd like to thank ESAIC for their very warm welcome to the Congress, and also to our sponsors, BD Advanced Patient Monitoring and GE. And without our sponsors, we couldn't bring our podcast free and open access to the world. Cheers.
Top Med Talk.
Thanks for downloading Top Med Talk. Don't forget to subscribe, check us out on YouTube, and of course on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook and X. Also, it's important to remember that Top Med Talk is the broadcasting arm of EPPOM, evidence-based perioperative medicine. We'd love you to find out more about that, and the way to do that is eppom.org. Check out our website and find out about some of the incredible conferences we're going to be arranging across the year. eppom.org.